Welcome to another edition of Mass Mats and Mayhem. I am your host, the Outlaw LA Red. You can find me on Twitter at JustinHarvey75. You can find the entire show on Twitter at MMMshow75. My one regular weekly co-host was here a minute ago, but I guess he decided to...
Welcome to something.
You're terrible at this, Byron.
I
still
look like Sheamus. I'm trying to get a better light.
You still look like Sheamus. You do look like Sheamus.
You want live?
What happened to your Kenny Omega look? You had a Kenny Omega look going for a while there. What's that all about?
I can't afford a haircut, so I grow it out and I'll wear a hat.
All right. Sounds like a good plan. So anyway, Byron Fever, say your things quickly so we can get
at Byron Fever, Casey Sucks, Venmo something. Let's get on to what's going on here.
Yeah, wait. Let's introduce the rest of the panel.
Yeah,
Jim, how's it going, Jim?
Good. Glad to be back again. I always seem to make an appearance when Casey's gone. I don't know what's up with that.
Casey is deathly sick. This is actually not one that Casey wanted to miss, but he actually didn't even go to work today. Casey always goes to work.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm hoping that he's okay. So everyone send your best wishes to Monster Face Casey or whatever it is.
Get well soon. Get well soon, Casey, so you can start insulting everyone when you're back to your normal self. You can find me on Twitter at @TheJimmyV. Done.
Meefloaf, all the way from across the pond. What's up, Meef?
It's all right. At Meefloaf. There we go.
Wow, that is stunning introduction.
Let's get it in there.
Glad
I'm still alive.
Our other substitute for Casey. It's like way better than Casey now, though, because we have two fill-ins for Casey. And, of course, we're joined by the man of the hour, the executive producer of Lucha Underground, the man who was victorious in getting a season 4 of Lucha Underground just very recently, Eric Van Wagenen. How's it going?
I'm doing well. It's they say that elephants, it takes 20 months for a baby elephant to gestate in the mother elephant until they can give birth, and that's kind of what Lucha Underground season 4 has taken. So I feel like we're giving birth to a baby elephant this month. So congratulate us all for that.
Yeah, I feel like we've been threatening this episode for a long, long time. Eric, come on, talk about season 4. When's it gonna happen?
I will. Yes, I will say this. You have been emailing me saying, "Come on and give us details on season 4 every week for 6 months," and I keep talking about the same thing. Dude, I got nothing new to say. I'm in holding pattern just like everybody else. Yeah, it's been crazy. This one was there's always these usually when I throw my hands up and say, fuck it, I'm sick of this stupid wrestling show. I'm done with it. That's usually when it gets the pickup. So I did that, and then I got the pickup. Yeah.
Well, so I guess, there's a million questions out there. Like, for as many times as I've bothered you probably with questions, I probably have compiled those questions or that one bothering you from like 700 people DMing me like, what's going on? Do you know what's happening? Let's speculate. Let's say all sorts of things that aren't true. Let's, go out there and tell rumors.
You know what I'll say about you, Justin? You're like one of the only people that actually reaches out to me and asks me the questions. They're like, I'm the easiest guy in the world to get a hold of, and I'm the easiest guy in the world to talk to. But you're like one of like 3 people that actually reaches out and says, "Hey, here's a question. Will you answer it?" And I do. It's like you and like Mike Johnson from PW Insider. He emails me, and I always tell him. And the guys from Midweek War, they call me. And I'm like, okay, you want to know? Here it is. But none of these other guys ever call me. And I'm easy. I'll tell them.
I think they like living the lie more. Maybe the lie is more exciting for them. Maybe they like the drama of the dirt sheet rumors. I don't know.
And they think I'm not from the wrestling world. I'll tell them what I can tell them. And if I can't tell them, I'll just say, hey, I can't tell you that.
Before I even get into season 4, there is one thing that irks the hell out of me that people ask me constantly that I want to clear up a little bit. It's the deficit financing mentality in the wrestling world. People think that because Lucha Underground isn't touring and isn't selling buttloads of merchandise that they're not making money. But that's, to me, that's because all the other wrestling shows, the model was built on deficit financing, where you do whatever it takes to get on TV, but you're doing that.
And sometimes pay for the TV yourself.
Yeah, even you pay for it, and you do the time buy thing.
Yeah.
That's so you can get out there and then pack your shows with people, sell your tickets, and sell your t-shirts. Lucha Underground works almost entirely the opposite of that. Like your t-shirts and stuff out there are almost just advertising to come watch the show, because that's where the producers of the show are getting paid right now, right?
Well, I mean, you guys work in freelance television, and it's a very simple game. It's like a network gives a license fee to a production company to produce a show. As the producers, it's your responsibility to deliver whatever is agreed upon, whether that's 12 or 20 or 50 episodes for an agreed upon price. And as a TV producer, that is your job. It's not to sell venues. It's not to sell touring or tickets or merch or any of that stuff. That's all extra in this case. My job is simply, as an employee of MGM Television, I'm to put together the team. I hired the Chris DeJosephs and the Chris Roaches and the Tony Jensens and the people like that. We all sort of, are freelance, and we put together the show for the money that El Rey gives us. And we don't spend more than that. Whatever they give us is what we spend. And if we have to adjust up and down to what they give us to produce the show, then we adjust up or down. And that, that's always been a little bit of the challenge. Now, the Lucha Underground Partners, LLC, they're to try to find the exposure that the television show gives them. So if that's touring or merchandise or DVD sales or whatever it is, that's on them. That's on them to figure out how to make money doing it. Now, those guys did put money into the show initially to create the IP, but it was very early in the process that the money that we used for Lucha Underground came from the Rey Network, and it didn't come from the partners. So this idea that these partners are writing this check every week to cover our payroll is kind of ridiculous. We haven't had anybody, I hate to say it, but we haven't had anybody on the Lucha Underground payroll in probably almost 6 months. I'm now just getting the band back together, literally like calling everybody saying, okay, we're a go. We're going to start this day. Come on back. Now, unfortunately, we have had to, for this upcoming season, tighten the belt a little bit. So a department that was 5 people last season might be 4 people this season, and instead of taping every week, or every other week, we'll probably have to tape every week. We have to find ways to kind of tighten the belt. But that's a function of, all networks do that to shows. All networks try to tighten the belt on shows. That's it. We are a different model than what people are used to and what people have heard. I don't know how the WWE model work. I know that there are other places that have paid for the TV time, and they use for, they pay to get that exposure, and then off of that, then they sell tickets and live events. We're sort of different. We're sort of more the traditional television model. Mark Burnett doesn't spend his own money on his own shows. He would not do that.
Ever.
Ever. That's why he's a billionaire, because he doesn't do that. So we get money from the Rey Network, and whatever they give us is what we spend.
Well, so the Burnett factor is definitely a question that I personally had, because knowing Mark's work over the years and how he's done things, it's like a Burnett show gets bigger. It goes from being The Apprentice to the Celebrity Apprentice. It goes from 1 overhead shot to 3 helicopter shots the next season. Like, he seems like a guy that's used to going up and bigger, and like he wants to go big or go home every season, right? So
yeah,
how does that work in his world for a network that's kind of wanting to tighten the budget on one of his shows?
It's atypical, and I can tell you, and I've worked for Mark on and off for almost 15 years, and this is the smallest budget show that I've ever done for Mark. If you look at Survivor and you look at The Voice and you look at Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice and you look at Shark Tank, a lot of those shows have $1 million an hour, plus, over $1 million an hour license fee. And so, ours is significantly smaller than that. And it is significantly smaller than what is current, what is almost always reported. It's not what people say. It's just not. You know, it might have been in the early for season 1, but every season we've lopped, we've lopped a significant chunk of budget off of that number. You know, because you get better, you get more efficient. You learn, you know, where not to spend your money and where to spend your money. So we've actually been extremely efficient on a show like this. But you know, Mark is somebody who you know, he's not all dollars and cents. You know, there are certain things that that he has an instinct for, and if something is working, if something is getting a strong response, he will play that hand a lot longer than a lot of other people will. So, you know, Mark loves this show. He thinks it's hilarious, and when I show him what we spent, he's happy. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you do this quality of a show for this amount of money." And he's always, you know, he's always, you know, backslaps and congratulations. This is awesome. So he doesn't want to give up on this show. He wants to keep it on the air, and he likes it. He loves combat shows. You know, I've worked, you know, I go back to him. I first started working with him on Survivor, but then worked on Contender and Bully Beatdown and all these other crazy, you know, King of the Cage stuff and a bunch of other stuff. And he's always pitching those kind of shows. In fact, I probably can't really talk too much about this, but I just recently had to get my California State Athletic Commission fighters promoters license renewed.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. You know, I like the sound of that.
Because there's a second show that I'm going to be doing on the heels of this season of Lucha Underground that will require me to be a licensed fight promoter. So
I
that's
love
a
the sound of that. Well, hey,
so
you know who likes the fight game? Who becomes available sometime in April? Give a brother.
I'm available.
April, really? Oh.
Yeah, I'm booked through April on the show I'm on right now.
All right. Well, that may time out through the end of April or the beginning of April.
Nah, like right in the like second week of April, I think, or somewhere in there.
All right. Well, we won't broadcast our discussion about that.
Justin, how do you send resume PDFs through Google?
No. Hey, so Byron, are you monitoring the chat room for me there? Because I'm not in it. I'm trying to stay.
They're talking about
Is my mic better now?
Yeah, they're talking about your mic. Your mic sounds better now. There's some brief talk about James Sarno brought up how some of the people like Mundo Callahan are on Taya are on Impact, and they're asking about that. I think.
Well, don't go any further than that.
I'll talk about that. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, but I want to ask you kind of a specific question because I want to explain the lead up to it first of the various natures of Lucha Underground contracts and AAA contracts and how there's an intersection of these things, but certain IP can be licensed from AAA, but yet to me, Sami Callihan is the one that has left me scratching my head. So if you can, it kind of clear it up of who is there under license from AAA that is an existing license before Lucha Underground and who is there under other means or how that all works.
You know, Dorian has a relationship with Impact, and you know, he has been sort of negotiating some of the talent exchange that's been happening with Lucha Underground, AAA, and Impact. I haven't been particularly involved in that, but I think when we're moving forward into season 4, I think because we're going to relax our exclusivity with season 4, and we are going to allow our guys to appear on other televised projects because it's kind of not fair to keep them on the shelf as long as we've been keeping them on the shelf. And we all we get that, you know, none of us really thought we would have a year plus hiatus. And we realized that it's not in our best interest and it's not in the best interest of our cast to have these guys, you know, kept off TV that long. So the partners, the LLC, the Lucha Underground LLC partners are going to do a talent exchange with Impact, with Ring of Honor, with a couple, Noah in Japan, Impact or Stardom. You know, we're gonna start. We're going to, and this is all sort of under Dorian's control. But we're definitely going to start letting our guys branch out. We're going to try to help negotiate relationships with other promotions so that our guys can get more TV exposure.
Okay, so now I have to ask the tough part of this question, and you can certainly choose to decline to answer it. But
Okay.
there are a few talent that we know still have Lucha Underground contracts that are not necessarily in the best of terms with Dorian. Are those guys going to be afforded those same kind of opportunities to go to other promotions and do some work on TV?
Yes, I mean, well, I'm hoping that I want to call him Jonathan Manny, but Pentagon and Phoenix will be back with us. I'm assuming they are. You know, they've never led me to believe that they wouldn't be. I do think that we will. You know, time has a tendency in the wrestling business, especially to soothe out all wounds, and hopefully that it will. But as far as I'm concerned, like, those guys should be getting more exposure if they can, and if that means, you know, ROH or Impact or wherever, like, I'm cool with it. I think that we will be allowing them to do that. You know, like, those are good guys, and you know, Pentagon and Phoenix, I really like those guys. I really want them to work with us again, and I'm under the impression that they will. You know, I don't know what's going on with Crash and all that other stuff. You know, I know they had to cancel a show recently, and you know, who knows? I don't follow it enough to know the day to day. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, those guys are part of the family, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again.
Well, I certainly hope that they'll be back, considering one of them is holding a very important piece of gold now at this point in time.
And I have nothing to believe. He's not led me to believe in any other way that he won't be. So I'm not actually, like, I'm not up at night worried about that. I'm really not. I feel like I feel like he'll be there when we need him to.
So I've heard some rumblings that there are some people who are not entirely satisfied because of the timelines and
Fair
some
enough.
of that stuff. So
Totally, I get it. Yep.
So are there guys? I mean, I know you
if
can't
it's-
discuss it, but are there
it's
guys
not-
asking to be released out there right now, or any other guys that
we
are
have had a
not
few.
interested?
We have had a few. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as you give us a way to get you off the storyline, I'm okay with it. I feel like you know, it's an ensemble cast, and if people don't want to, you know, be on Lucha Underground anymore, okay, like, I get it. We'll give us the chance to, you know, figure out how to do that where it's appropriate. I mean, obviously, if you're, you know, have a Lucha Underground title, it's not like you can just disappear. But you know, we've got a smaller order this season, and we have fewer episodes, and the TV time is at a premium, and we only want to work with the people that want to work with us. So if somebody wants to, you know, go off and do their own thing, where it's reasonable, we will absolutely negotiate it.
And that could even help budgetarily, right? I mean, that can
actually
ease things, right?
I mean, it does. I mean, there's some people that have, you know, I mean, yes. I mean, you know, obviously, there are people who are higher paid performers, and if they want out, that saves a little bit of money. But, you know, I mean, I kind of hope that if we tell everybody, hey, look, we're relaxing our exclusivity, that they'll want to stay with us and still work with us. But look, I get it. You know, you have a very short amount of time in the wrestling business to make as much money as you can. And, you know, personally, on a personal level, I don't want to hold anybody back.
Right.
But, you know, there's business decisions that the partners have to make. It's not always up to me. I would make a terrible wrestling promoter.
Well, and I hope that those talent, I've talked to a few guys too, and I think a lot of them do understand that business isn't personal. And I think that, you know, a lot of people really see Lucha Underground as a family and something that they liked being a part of. But at the same time, like, if they feel like they could probably be utilized somewhere else, or knowing that maybe there's less episodes coming, or feeling that they can branch out, you know, who knows? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting for guys like us to follow. Another one of the big questions I had, I was very surprised at the end of the season that Rey Mysterio actually resurfaced alive. I almost thought that you guys would leave it as a question mark at the end of the season, so that you could either write him out or back in, depending on budgets and his schedule and whether or not he wanted to come back, because we've heard that he's been talking to some other people. So I don't know if you can address this at all, but Rey Mysterio, that's a pretty big ticket item. What do you do with this guy now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like creatively we're tied to him. I feel like there is definitely you know, maybe we, it's weird because when I think about when we shot that stuff, it was, well over a year ago, and the situation. I have to rewind in my brain like 17, 18 months to why we shot it that way and what we were thinking at the time. And I don't remember exactly what we were thinking at that time. I mean, look, we have a great relationship with Ray. It just becomes about, can we afford him? Can we afford him on our new, with our new budget and our new setup? I don't know. We have to get into it to see, but it's not like, we have a good relationship with Ray, and we could call him and talk to him about it, and we could figure out something, But
I'd love to see him come back for a weekend and get killed. Not because I want to see Rey Mysterio get killed, but I know like little kids will cry. Casey will rejoice. It will be epic television if you like just literally kill off like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time on a show. It'll be weird though, because he's going to show up like 3 weeks later someplace else and be alive.
We'll get away with that stuff story. We can kill people. Like we there's been days when we've talked about murdering half the cast, but we'll there could be who knows, there could be a mass murder going on at the temple.
Okay, now I know you're going to think I've lost my mind, Eric, but I've had a slight change of heart. I desperately want you to bring back Sexy Star now. I know you're going to think I'm crazy. I think that Sexy Star now, with all this stuff, I'm thinking like a wrestling promoter, would be the best heel heat ever. If you brought back a heel Sexy Star, and she's going to take shit in the locker room, and there's going to be a whole lot of receipts coming from a whole lot of angry people, but at the same time, it would be epic television if you brought Sexy Star back as a heel.
The one thing I've learned, you never say never, right?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, if you want to swerve everyone in the whole universe, I mean, you'll take some shit. Don't get me wrong, and they'll be, and then I'll be nowhere to be found.
We'll take shit no matter what we do.
I'll be nowhere around that day. You can't blame me, even though I'm suggesting it right now. I'll be ghost, man. I'll be out of there. But man, that would get you so much heat. You want to talk about some internet press? You want to talk about people turning in to see what the hell's going on? That's like people throwing drinks at Hogan and Mean Gene. I mean, that's big time.
I want to see that just for Casey's reaction.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I can imagine the reaction that Casey had when Pentagon won the title. It'll be the complete opposite of that.
Oh, can we talk about that, by the way? Can we talk about
we never talked
coincidence it may have or may not have been that the shot after Pentagon went is Casey just the happiest he's ever been in his whole life?
Just losing his shit.
I mean, the cameraman was hovering, looking right at Casey, which was pretty much when I knew that Pentagon was about to win.
The cameraman starts to know his marks in the audience, right?
Come on. You guys had to have been in his ear. Somebody was on walkie to that guy, like, okay, just find Lucha Gringo and stay with him.
It's in Brandon's section, so Brandon knows him by now. Brandon's the one that has the ongoing feud with Mil Muertes.
Although Casey was in a different area.
That guy, Brandon Haberman, he's super wrestling fan. Like I worked with him on Toughen Up with Steve Austin, and he would show up with like his Stone Cold T-shirt while he was shooting Steve Austin. It was totally like, come on, Brandon, pretend like you've been here before. But it's like he would mark out like on
total mark.
I think Rabbit doesn't literally like walk over him into the ring. He used to get like a full-on like London crotch before every match.
And Brandon's wife is that pretty blonde that they always cut to in the audience that has like the terrible reaction face.
Nicely done, Brandon. Good job.
Right, yeah. So they drive down from Utah to spend the weekend and shoot Lucha Underground. Crazy.
Hey, does Penta get to walk around with the belt now? Can he show up somewhere else with his strap, or do you guys have that in the prop department hiding away somewhere?
It's in our big storage facility, I believe. Yeah.
Where would that be?
No, he's not walking around with it.
Now, would it not be a good idea to send him out and let him do some indie shows just carrying the belt? I mean, obviously he can't wrestle for it, but I mean, I've seen other promotions do stuff like that. It kind of gives your belt the rub a little bit on the indies.
Yeah, but we have to look, everything. Our whole life is stacked up in some storage facility, and I think our bill is past due. We got to pay it this week so we can get our stuff out.
Well, now that there's a budget, you can probably do that.
I know. Now we have a little money, we can actually pay for it to get it out. but yeah, I mean, look, we're a TV show first, so you got to think like television.
Oh, so we talked. God, this conversation was at the beginning of summer, maybe even when you said yes, we have the temple reserved for a certain amount of time. Do you still have the temple now, or like you have to call somebody and try to get it back? What's the status of the actual set of Lucha Underground?
TVD on that. That's welcome to my world. Welcome to my week. Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
I mean, it's still there, obviously.
It's become very popular as a shooting venue. And, we've had to like push our hold on it so much that we've sort of lost our exclusivity on it. But we're trying to get it back. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Well, you guys have to be pretty good customers. I mean, you guys have, held it out longer than anybody else has in the last few years. So
yes, and we have contingency plans. Don't worry.
Sweet. My backyard in Tarzana. Let's do it.
Yeah. Johnny Mundo's house.
We call it the Dimple. It's not the temple. It's the Dimple. Yeah, Mundo's house. You could do it there. He has a ring in his backyard.
He has a wrestling dinosaur back there too. So
yeah, where the infamous original Luchasaurus came from. If people don't know, go get on your Google tubes or wherever you find things. Okay, so we've actually hit a lot of the main ones. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I really wanted you on the show for was some of the rumor killing ahead of time. You said that it's going to be a slightly shorter season. Do you know how many episodes? What are we looking at, or do you not quite entirely know yet?
Well, it's weird because we've announced the number of seasons in the past, and that number has changed a couple of times. But I'll say it's in the 20s.
Okay. So that's a decent amount, and so we're figuring at least a couple of months of taping then, right?
Yeah, but we're actually looking at ways to do it cheaper, where we do 2 to 3 times a week. So we may have some Friday night shows. I don't know if you guys can show up on a Friday night, but we may try to get some of those in.
Friday night might be better for me than a Saturday. I was typically always there on the Sundays. I made almost all of the Sunday shows. Yeah. So when are you guys looking to start filming? I mean, I know there's a lot of things that have to come together to make that happen, but what's the hope, I should say?
I would say early to mid-February is what I would say. If you look at those weekends in February.
That's soon. That's actually pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet. So for my birthday by March, we could be back in the temple.
We want to have it done by the end of March. So,
oh wow.
Yeah,
well, I remember you had this ideal of a year-round schedule where you film for
film and tour. Yeah, and the touring part hasn't been put together. They haven't found a tour partner that they like, I guess, is basically. I mean, I this crosses out of my sort of realm and into Dorian and the LLC's realm, but the touring hasn't come together like they hoped it would. I mean, there was some potential sponsors that kind of fell out very strangely and unexpectedly, but we all have our theories as to why, but it's still on the table.
But what do you think about your TV schedule as far as how long you're going to wait in between seasons?
I think that, if the financial, this is going to be the tricky season 4. I think once we get through season 4, I think the deal is in place for 5, 6, and 7 at least. And I think, we will probably return and do it every year roughly around the same time. And shoot it once a year. And that's why it's sort of like, you can't tie people down for this, crazy exclusivity. If you're only working, a couple months out of the year, that's not really fair to anybody. So, that's sort of what we all sort of concluded as well. Like, and it does, look, and some of our guys, Taya and Mundo and Drago and Phantasma, they've been appearing on Impact already, and it's not doesn't hurt us. In fact, it probably only helps us.
I think so.
Yeah. So, I think we were very, kind of territorial and very, we were thinking we needed to protect everybody in our IP and nobody. And I think maybe we were overly so. and that we should, you know, it's sort of good for everybody to get our guys out there. And look, we're all, you know, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, Impact, we're all kind of in the same boat. You know, we're all trying to survive amongst, you know, the second tier of the wrestling promotions, and we have to do what we can to do it. And if we help each other, that's great. I think, you know, I think we're all trying to make it in a very competitive business, and where we can help each other, we should.
Well, I feel like if Lucha Underground is almost like a super indie, but where you can come to be on a super indie and have a real storyline and real writers in those vignettes, I feel like that actually is filling a void that you don't have in that type of wrestling world. It's part of what TNA honestly has been missing, is the continuity of story and getting that kind of depth. Even with the Broken Hardys thing, they only made it last, what, 4 months? They couldn't keep some of that stuff going.
And there really isn't a lot of overlap if you look stylistically and storytelling wise, and you know, whatever. And it's like, you know, there's enough for everybody to find an audience. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know, you should probably, you know, the options are good. Options are good for everybody, and it's good for the workers that they can work, and that they can, you know, if they don't fit in one place, maybe they'll fit in somewhere else. And you know, I think, you know, it's people get so sucked into the whole wrestling wars, and I did too, I think, initially and whatever, but I don't feel that way anymore. And I feel like, you know, let's all stay on television as long as we can. And I'm like that with reality television. You know, even the reality TV shows that I don't like, I want them to stay on the air because it's good for all of us.
More jobs. It keeps them away from my jobs. Keep everybody working.
Exactly. Keeps the wages higher, you know, when you're in demand.
I also feel like the premise of Lucha Underground, I feel like you guys can lean back on that and make that kind of theory work, that it's an underground fight promotion. It's where you come to have that down and dirty fight and prove yourself in this other world. So it will make sense for wrestlers to pop up there, and maybe when you're doing shorter seasons, not have as long a storyline, or be able to come in and out a little easier, leaning back on that original premise.
And I think people have bought into our wackiness. You know, they've bought into kind of our crazy kayfabe. You know, and it's not like, we're not making excuses for it. I mean, yeah, oh shit, we got a time traveling luchador and a pissed off alien skeleton, and you know, like, who breaks people's arms, and it's like, you know, we've kind of like just thrown it out there of like, yeah, we're kind of like borderline insane. So if somebody shows up for 3 weeks and then Brian Cage smashes their skull and their brains fall all over the floor, okay, that's Lucha Underground, you know. And it may not be for everybody, but to me, it's more fun, you know, to have those kind of to have that kind of range.
Okay, so this is probably the last hard question. With this show being maybe a little more scaled back this coming season, there had been a lot of talk. Okay, when there's a season 4, I think people were thinking it's going to be a bigger thing. So everyone is speculating, oh, this guy from Mexico is going to come in, or this guy from AAA is going to come in, or this guy off the Indies is going to come in. I'm not going to ask you specifically who you guys are hunting for. I know that you guys have looked at certain people out there, and I don't want to ruin it, because then all of a sudden they're going to become more expensive or unavailable for you. But are you guys still looking to try to bring in some new younger talent or
Yes.
established talent?
Absolutely. You know, Krista Joseph has been working with Dorian down at AAA. You know, he's been helping do some of the booking and writing for the AAA television. And when he comes back from Mexico, he's like, man, I just saw the next Phoenix. I just saw the next Pentagon, and I saw the guys that are you know, that we're going to want to develop and bring into our system. And you know, plus the fact that, you know, Dorian is building these relationships with you know, Impact and ROH and Noah in Japan, and we're already talking about, okay, well, let's bring this guy over for a weekend, you know, and give him you know, a 2-match story, and then, you know, take him back out to where he's doing. So we are kind of creating a situation where we can work with talents on a less exclusive basis. You know, it worked really well with the Stardom girls. You know, I mean, they came in for one weekend. They were part of Aztec Warfare, and then they were part of that gauntlet match with Pentagon, which I mean, there was some great stuff in season 3, but that match was right up there with all the great stuff in season 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I mean,
definitely as an event thing too, where it's like you wanted to be there, you wanted to see that, regardless of what your thoughts of it were, you still wanted to see it.
Yeah,
you know?
so we can pull those kind of stunts now with some guys from some other promotions. And so now, you know, it's become, how do we maximize the bang for that? You know, how do we get the most loud moment, you know, from that?
And MGM is cool with this on the legal side too. I mean, because it does get a little tricky, right? Letting the talent in and out and bringing new guys in. I mean, there's a lot of paperwork involved in these things, right?
But not really. I mean, you know, if you look at any episodic television, they have guest stars all the time. You know, so it's not like, you know, you got to look at it that like, you know, you got to look at Lucha Underground more like a television production from a big studio than a wrestling promotion. You know, and so nobody at MGM even blinks an eye when you say, "Oh, we're bringing in somebody from another promotion to do a 2-episode shoot." You know, like nobody cares about that. They know it. They've got a floor full of lawyers that can, you know, throw something together real quick. You know, that will allow it. And we get away with a lot on this show. It's not, you know, MGM has a lot of shows, a lot of big shows on their docket, and you know, we don't get a lot of attention. So sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's better that way.
Stay off the radar, man. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
So, okay. Season 4, moving along. When do you think that'll actually hit air if you tape when you're hoping to tape? What's the hope?
Late spring, summer of 2018.
Wow. So before summer, not holding it back till fall, like getting it right in the bay and start cutting it, huh?
Yeah, I think like, I want to say May, but I know that we will start delivering soon. Like we'll start delivering in March, April. You know, our guys have a system now where, you know, the editors will crank it out. They haven't announced anything.
Right.
But I don't think they'll hold it to the fall. I don't think that's the case.
That'd be awesome if it was actually able to turn back around that soon. Because in my mind, I was thinking, gosh, there's no way they're going to come out before September of next year or something.
I do think it'll be before that. I mean, look.
That's awesome. You never know. Yeah, I get you. I know that there's a giant caveat there.
I have regretted saying these things many times in the past. So take this with a tremendous grain of salt, a bucket of salt. But I feel like you know, October, like I feel like 6-7 months is enough time to be off the air. We should be back on.
That'd be awesome. Okay, so season 4, we got most of the info there. If I think of something else, I'll ask. Well, and I do have a few questions, but season 3. Yeah. What is going to happen with season 3 now? Is El Rey going to syndicate it more? Are you going to try to go to Netflix there and add it to what's currently there? Do you think you get a good price for it? Like what happens with season 3, this awesome season that I feel like people need to go back and watch again, even though they can buy it today on iTunes?
I mean, you know, Jim and Joe have been awfully quiet over there. I don't know what people think season 3, where it falls into the you know,
the greater pantheon.
They like it a lot. I could speak for them. They liked it a lot.
Yeah, it really was one of the best seasons. I definitely had the most fun at the temple during season 3.
There were some very memorable moments. That was like when we really flexed the muscles in season 3. Like, oh, you think you've seen everything?
I mean, I'm hoping to see it on Netflix. So,
and I think I think there's a deal in place that Netflix just needs to execute. You know, and they have a window of time after we've finished airing where they can do that. So I think we're just kind of waiting to see if they do. But I think there'll be plenty of ways. Regardless, there'll be other ways to get season 3. I think it'll end up on Netflix, but if it doesn't, there will be other ways where we can see season 3.
Well, Meatloaf certainly knows about alternate ways to watch Lucha Underground.
How do you even see this show? I don't get it.
I have Aerostar lives in my basement. So he takes me to watch it somewhere.
So you time travel to the future where the UK actually has distribution of Lucha Underground?
Where it's on the UK Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still waiting for that. It's in Germany and I think France and even India.
Yes.
So
you're right.
That's not upsetting at all. Says the UK wrestling scene's not big at all at the minute. It's quite small.
They're racist. They don't like Mexicans.
Meatloaf legitimately has King Cuerno in his living room, by the way.
Oh yeah. I have the cape.
I wish we were on in the UK because that's like the one territory that everybody wants, and I don't know why we can't. I don't know why. Maybe they haven't nobody's made them an offer. I don't know what's going on.
Aren't you in Germany? I saw German DVDs of.
Yeah. You can buy season 1, season 2 on DVD. I think both seasons. I'm sure you can get on DVD now in Germany.
Wow.
Why?
But like, if you go to shows here, when I'm going to shows to watch, because I basically follow Phoenix and Pentagon around the UK, not like a weird stalk or anything. But people are always wearing Lucha Underground stuff at the shows. There's loads. I went to a NXT event and someone actually made their own bootleg as hell Lucha Underground shirt. But still, like, you know, because we it's ordering.
Come on, they've got Hot Topic. You guys have Hot Topic over there, don't you?
But they don't sell that stuff here.
Damn it.
So like, yeah, we watch it via various different means.
Well, so Eric, who would have the rights to try to distribute in England? Is that international rights fall under the LLC or MMGM or El Rey or who?
Well, this is where it gets really confusing, and this is where it's like MGM controls certain rights, and then El Rey controls certain rights. And there's a difference between the Spanish-speaking territories and the English-speaking territories. I don't really know. My best guess would be that MGM controls the UK rights, and so it would be about getting somebody in the UK to make an offer to MGM for the seasons there in the UK.
His name is Meatloaf. He'll pay for it himself.
It's really not that much. It's shockingly, it's not that expensive.
You'll see me next year, a millionaire, off of the back of buying the rights to Lucha Underground. But the weird thing is because they had, what freaks everybody out is because From Dusk Till Dawn was showing like, the day after it aired in America. We could watch it here.
Hey, so Meatloaf even got to watch my last show, Eric.
What
he
was
even
that?
got to see Gear Dogs. That aired over there. My last Discovery Channel show.
I think that was only 2 weeks behind America as well.
Yeah,
which is weird.
I have no excuse. I wish.
Shame on you, Eric Van Wagenen. Shame on you.
I would give it to you for free, Meef, if it was up to me. I would just give it to you.
I gave it for free anyway on YouTube.
You can't say that.
Pirate.
Thief.
English
Stop
pirate.
Christian Joseph's always got Kevin Cross suplexing me, so we're okay.
Is Cross still coming in? Have you? Is that still in play?
That awesome Cross promo that's on Twitter.
Oh, the one where he took his old promo and put Lucha Underground at the end of it, but it's still awesome.
Oh wait, I think I did.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But dude,
I mean, I hope so. I'm gonna talk to Kevin. I hope so.
Okay. Well, I know you haven't really had a chance to reach out individually to all the guys and make sure that everything's in place. So we'll let you do that. And when it's time, we'll bring Kevin back on and he can talk about how he's going to put everyone's heads through the freaking canvas. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with for him, if he just comes in as himself or if he has some grandiose gimmick or if he's in a mask. I think it would be very interesting to see where a few of these people end up in the grand scheme of Lucha Underground.
I think there's a lot of different ways they can do this. I mean, Chris, we had a meeting at the end of last week, and it's like, well, put your thinking caps on. Let's figure this shit out now, okay? You put all this stuff out there, and now let's figure out a way to tie it all together. So, there's definitely those guys are, and Chris is smart, and he has lots of ideas already. So some of them are great, some of them are weird, some of them are both great and weird. So we'll just ride it out and see what you think.
How's this timeline work for Roach? I mean, he's got the freaking celebrity Big Brother to deal with now, and you know how those celebrity shows can be a bit taxing.
They're bullshit. Yeah, no, we're trying to work all that out. I mean, Big Brothers, that show's still on the air. Jesus.
I feel like, well, isn't his show supposed to be a winter season?
Reality shows that you think should die.
It's gonna jump off a cliff like lemmings.
I say that with love. I say that with love. No, you know, as much look, we all do stuff because we, you know, he's got a baby now and a wife, and you do stuff that you have to do to pay your mortgages, and then you always have to have like a little like some for the meals, some for the reels. You know, it's like he's got to have a little passion project, and we are that for Chris. I know we shouldn't be, we can't really afford what he's worth, but luckily he still loves Lucha Underground, and he will do whatever he has to do to stay a part of it.
Yeah, he's got a movie coming. Is this movie out yet? It can't. Is it coming out soon?
It might be. I don't know.
I have to go back and rewatch my own episode with him on it because I'm pretty sure he told us, and I've completely forgotten. Yeah. Sorry, Roach. I'm a dipshit.
Let's just hope he's not cast anybody.
Everyone,
you know.
Everyone, go see Truth or Dare, if now or in the future.
Great plug.
I saw the Gilbert movie the other day. Gilbert Gottfried. That's a good one. The documentary on Gilbert.
Oh my God.
Justin's twin.
Can my virgin ears handle that?
No, but he's a sweet. Like I know Gilbert from Celebrity Apprentice, and I like, to me, I'm like a Gilbert Gottfried Mark. You know, it's kind of,
Eric, we gotta talk about this
fearless comedian. In the last, like he is such an original, and he doesn't give a shit. He's the first person to call Donald Trump Hitler to his face. He did that on our show. He called him Mein Führer right to his face.
Tell Donald to come in here. I got a joke for him. The aristocrats.
That's what I imagine the documentary to be.
But watch the Gilbert documentary. It's really good. Gilbert.
You got it. That is absolutely. I'm probably going to do that as soon as we get off the air tonight. That sounds like a good time.
It's really entertaining. I'm telling you. And that we didn't even talk about the UFC fight 2 weeks ago.
Oh, we're about to get to that too. Here's my last question, and then Byron can throw a couple of things at you from the chat room if they're in there and they're reasonable.
Even if they're not, I'll answer it.
We kind of understand the landscape of season 4 and what's going on here now. The skip chasing portion of this, are we going to see less vignettes, or is there still a way to do as many vignettes? Are they going to still be what you want them to be, or do you have to kind of finagle it a little bit or try some stuff out to see where you get to? What's the plan with the vignettes?
I will say this. The beauty of skip chasing is that you can give them an iPhone and a flashlight, and it will still look better than 90% of the shit you see on television. So I have a lot of faith in Skip.
And for those who don't know, Skip directs a lot of the vignettes. He also works for Rey Network, and he also has cut pretty much 90% of the trailers you've ever loved in your life.
90% of every badass trailer that you've ever seen from about 1990 to about 2005, Skip probably cut it.
Yeah, he did like all the Scott Brothers stuff, and
yeah, Ridley and Tony Scott, and like, I mean, you name it, he cut it, and he's a genius. And I like whatever he touches will be great. It may not be as much or as production heavy as in seasons past, but I think, you know, you just have to be economical. Instead of doing a scene, you know, out in a location somewhere, we keep it in the office, or we just keep it on the set. So
Pentagon's cave is gone, is what you're telling me.
No, that Pentagon's dojo sits right behind the band platform. Pentagon's dojo is literally 10 yards away from the band platform.
Hashtag more skeleton ninja. That's all I can say.
Wait, if it's Pentagon's, and how come Vampiro's doing a bunch of weird stuff there in season 3?
Oh, well, Vampiro's just weird. You know, he's just, you know, he's going to do weird stuff. And yeah, there's a whole storyline that's going to develop out of that. But I mean, if it stays close to the temple and it doesn't require too much extra, you know, we should be able to keep it. Will there be as much vignettes as there were in season 3? Probably not, but I sort of actually think maybe we went a little too vignette heavy in season 3, all things considered.
Well, what do you think about fight scenes that you did? You did a few fight scenes. We heard that the Ivelisse Katrina match was thought at one point to be a vignette type match.
Oh yeah, DJ was saying that there was an idea at one point to do that as a backstage vignette brawl, like film it.
Yeah, like a combination on like in the ring, backstage, Like, yeah, there was, you know, some ideas on that. That stuff takes longer. You know, anything in the bathroom with you know, where all the great fights take place, you know, that obviously takes longer. But you know, I think that our job will be to try to mask the fact that we're spending less money. You know, it's sort of like that's where the challenge will lie for the producing team, is to try to deliver this, try to trick you all into thinking that nothing has changed.
Okay, why'd you guys kill Dario? Or did you?
Oh no!
Who said he's dead?
What?
Who said he's dead?
Damn!
His heart is still
Come
beating
on, man.
as we go to dark. You can still hear his heartbeat. Just saying.
But if he's dead, can we have Gilbert Godfrey?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
El Jefe Gilbert Gottfried.
He comes back season 4 with a Band-Aid on his shirt. Totally
Gilbert Gottfried and Gary Busey.
oh my
I
god!
pitched a show with those two guys. Actually, I had them all. I had them agreeing to do a show, and it was Gilbert and Gary Find God, and it was literally we were going to take Gary Busey and Gilbert Gottfried around to spiritual locations, and they were, and Gary of course is a believes everything, and he was gonna, he's a believer and he thinks he's a psychic and medium, and then Gilbert's just an asshole and makes fun of everything. So that was going to be the premise of the show: Gilbert and Gary Find God. Surprisingly, nobody bought it.
Did you see it? Wasn't there a Gary Busey show? I think it was a fake reality show on Comedy Central where it was him and an assistant, and you're just basically watching him live his life.
Yeah, but I don't know that Gary knew that it was kind of soft scripted. I don't think they ever gave him a copy of the script.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be,
and it wouldn't have helped even if you had. He just does what he does. It's like with Gary. That's the beauty of Gary. Turn the cameras on him and just follow, and good stuff.
Bring in those guys and bring in Glenn Gilberti, the Disco Inferno, to be their manager. They'll be great. They'll be a great tag team. They'll be a trios. Fuck it. Not even a tag team. They'll just all wrestle.
It'd be great. Just get him to sign an appearance release as an audience member and just have Gary Busey be in the crowd every single show.
I have not given up on Gary Busey making an appearance in Lucha Underground.
That would be
Gary
great.
Busey, Mil Muertes.
I have a question from the
guy in the back of the guy in the back of the limo. How crazy would that be if it was Gary Busey?
Oh, I would mark out so hardcore.
Yeah,
it's like Gary Busey acting like a normal human being.
We'd be remiss if we didn't put in for Casey right now that he would prefer it be Jan Michael Vincent.
Is he still alive?
That's what we say every time. Nobody knows the answer to that question, Eric. Nobody knows if Jan Michael Vincent's alive or not.
Get the Airwolf helicopter and put it on top of the temple.
All right. So what's the chat room question? Don't screw this up, Byron.
So,
I'm not looking at the chat room, so make this work.
Well, so someone's asking. They're asking more specific questions now about bringing in other talents from other companies, like more Stardom women, or possibly CMLL wrestlers.
CMLL will never happen. Come on.
I can say in the order of those mentions, yes and no.
And someone's
I've got an idea.
Wait, who's asking about CMLL? Do they not understand the dynamic that the other guys helped create this particular program? So that's probably just not even respectful, even if you could get away with it.
Can I slap in a suggestion here now?
Oh God! Phantasma shows up in a bikini,
and an entire series of King
He wrestles in a bikini, dude. What are you talking about?
Oh God! This is like slash fiction now, isn't it?
No. There's a ridiculously good tag team / trios team. Travis Banks, Kid Lycos, who actually wrestles as a wolf mask, and Chris Brooks. Chris Brooks is ridiculously cool.
Are those country singers?
CCK.
Yeah, I saw those
English guys. They're amazing. Travis Banks. I really want to watch Travis Banks versus Phantasma.
First question is, will they fly Frontier? Second question is, will they fly themselves Frontier?
I'll bring them with me to the temple in February, March.
Meef,
so you're gonna come out, Meef? Yeah, Eric's asking you too. Are you coming, Meef?
Well, I've got to work some stuff out with obviously work because my
scared of planes.
Yeah, I'm also scared of planes. Yeah, but I think it's the only way I'm going to see Phantasma in the flesh. So I've got to do that.
Meef, if you come, we'll hook you up. You're taken care of. You just let me know.
You heard it. That's it. It's recorded now. It's in stone.
I will also, if Mil Muertes throws anybody at me, I will just stay down and bleed. So that's.
He says move, and you say no.
Always
a good idea.
Somebody.
I'm the guy who says no.
Yeah. Someone's a good fan when they're gonna sell.
Yeah.
That should be
Will Blade.
Right before bodily fluids, the lawyer should also make us all acknowledge that we will sell if anything happens to us.
I sold for Mil Muertes.
I saw that, and that was some sell. You went straight back. That was at the In Vivo show, right? Was that the second In Vivo show?
It was the Tamale Festival, or
I think DJ went off the top rope.
No, he just walked over and punched me.
Oh, you're talking about DJ? He went off the apron,
no, DJ sold for him too. DJ went off the top rope, I think. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Why not?
Because it's wrestling, man. You have to do these things, or you get no respect sometimes, Byron. Yeah, no selling son of a bitch.
I went to a show the other week where Pentagon got a guy dressed as Jesus to slap somebody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I had one last question, Eric. That was on my list. I just looked at my list. It says, is there a world in which Chevello comes back ever as maybe even a permanent part of the announcement team, maybe a 3-man team, or if Vamp becomes a full-time manager of evil people?
I will tell you this. I love Mike Chevello. I worked with him 10 years ago in Singapore, and he kind of saved my ass on this crazy live show, this Contender Muay Thai finale that I was involved with. And he came in at the last minute, and he crushed the live finale. And I've been a Mike Chevello mark ever since then. And he is a wrestling nerd, too. I mean, he's a super mark. And so I've been in touch with him, and I worked with him when we were doing these King of the Cage things. We just stayed friends for 10 years. And he was living in Vegas for a lot of years. And then he just moved back to Australia. I think he's got kids now and a wife. But I could call him tomorrow, and he would be on a plane to work for Lucha Underground. He loved it. When he was doing the voice verses, that's how he got Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I was trying to get him to do a Roddy Piper interview, and like, he's just a wrestling nerd, he just loves it, and he loves Lucha Underground. He loves all wrestling. So the short answer to that is absolutely, I would work with Mike on anything, and I would love to have him back on Lucha Underground.
Well, I liked him just doing those little promos this past season. Yeah. I mean, I know Casey, like, by the third week of those promos was kind of over it, but I was always excited every time just because I wanted to hear the voice.
He's great. He's
the big
awesome.
Kibosh.
The big Kibosh. The big Kibosh. No, he's great. And it's such a good guy, too. He's just one of the nicest guys and just a fan. When he did Ultimo Lucha 1, he hadn't seen a minute of Lucha Underground because he'd been gone. So he was coming back from Abu Dhabi, I think it was the submission tournaments in Abu Dhabi or something like that. And he had like a 18-hour flight, and he just sat and watched Lucha Underground episodes the entire way.
Wow.
And when he landed in LA, he came straight to the set and had like 3 hours before we were going. And he knew everybody, he knew every character, he knew every storyline, and he was a super mark walking in the door. So he's one of those people that you work with in the business that you say, man, I would work with this guy on anything. It doesn't matter. I would work with Mike on anything. He's awesome.
You keep his phone number handy because Matt Stryker and Casey have officially challenged each other to the name game in the line at the Temple. If there's a season 4, which we now know there's going to be, so this is going to be official. The line belt of the wrestler name game is on the line between Stryker and Casey. And I think Casey's going to probably win, and Stryker's going to cry, and he might quit, Eric. Stryker might quit and go home, so keep Chevello's number handy. Get a plane ticket ready just in case.
I need 24 hours notice. Yeah.
I love Stryker, but Casey might break his will to live at the name game. I think Stryker's going to be very, very... I'd say impressed, but more probably frightened by the amount of knowledge in that man's head. Casey
wins in 5 rounds.
Yeah, probably.
Do you even want to live in a world where Casey loses that?
Oh, God, yes. I would be equally as happy if Stryker completely humiliated Casey, and Casey would run home crying, and he would probably never be seen at the Temple again. I think either way, we may lose one of the two of them from the Temple forever.
You realize that
if only one.
If Casey loses, you have to intro him to each show now as the loser of the wrestling name game.
Oh yeah, and we'll get Stryker a belt or something. We'll have to
trophy. Get him a trophy from.
There should be some kind of trophy. I don't know.
I'll pitch it for it. We got till February.
We'll get Sexy Star to raise his arm.
Oh,
you are the loser. Goodbye.
Should break his arm.
You guys are. Oh, that's what we should do.
She'll hold on a little too long.
That's called the sexy star now. Anytime somebody holds on a little too long and twists, it's the sexy star.
Did you see the tag team that got created out of that? David Starr and Jack Sexsmith.
Yeah, they've made themselves into sex. That's I told you it's a great way to get heel heat. Yeah. Hey, Byron, do you have any other reasonable question from the chat room before I ask Eric a couple things about UFC? Because I want to talk about grown men hitting each other in the face.
It's basically that they're asking about Flamita, about Nightcrawler.
Have you watched the show?
Nightcrawler?
I haven't seen him in so long.
He's coming back as Puma. It's fine.
Nightwing.
Yeah, Puma's shrinking a few inches, and
no, it's just
really want to see Russ to come in as Puma.
People are asking about Flamita, and then they're just repeatedly saying how excited they are. Some of them, including myself, are asking about replica title belts. So it's more of the same. I think we have it pretty well covered.
Where are you seeing this chat, Byron? Where does this happen?
If you actually look at the YouTube feed of what we're doing live, there's a little chat bar on the side.
Don't do it, though.
I won't bother.
You'll never know what's going to be.
I'll fuck this all up.
So UFC 217, Eric, awesome. I got to say, the Rose Namajunas, love her to death. And I'm a huge Joanna Champion fan, too, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. But I was so happy to see Rose win. It was
great.
It was the crazy moment. I was not
expecting it. She just controlled the distance. That was really what it was.
It was masterful, and I had a couple of $3 on it too, and not many did. Yes, she was the big underdog.
Bold move. I would have never bet that.
Pat Barry was a guy that was close to the Tap Out guys with me, and I've met him a few times, so I always have to support Pat. So that's why I had my faith firmly behind Rose. But I didn't think it was going to go down like that. I'll be honest. I didn't think that she was going to make short work of JJ.
Dominated from the bell. Never, I mean, really, just like there was never a moment when she wasn't in control of that fight. It was awesome. It was great. Those final three were awesome. Even the undercard was good. I mean, that fight nights like that is what keeps you sucked into that goddamn UFC.
Oh, they got me again. Yeah, they 100% got me again. And then I'm starting to believe all of Dana's bullshit afterwards, where he's like, "Yeah, we're having the best year we've ever had." Oh, the fuck you are! Come on.
But I mean, St. Pierre, big swollen, stung by bees. George St. Pierre beating Michael Bisping was just the cherry on top of an already great card.
Oh yeah, it really was. And I'll be honest, I didn't know where I saw that fight going, and a lot of people thought it was
going to be a Bisping beating up a guy who was 10 years past his prime again for like the fourth time or whatever it was.
I thought it was going to be Bisping kind of staying at distance and stuffing the takedown a lot and jabbing a lot and just kind of using his size over George to win the fight. But none of that happened either.
Oh, I was like, I like George at that big weight, but I think he could get back down to 70 easy.
I think he probably is, and he's come out very publicly and said that the weight gaining did not work out well, and his camp has said the same thing that
it's a little thick.
Well, it's like it blew him up the wrong way, and then when he went into the fight, he was the exact same weight that he used to go into a fight back when he was a welterweight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he went into the actual fight around
gaining weight after the weigh-in.
189, but going into a fight at 189 in a 170-pound fight is certainly more advantageous than doing it at a 185-pound fight, where Bisping was probably tipping the scale at 210 when he walked in the ring.
Yeah, he looked big too. No, it was good. It was a satisfying card all around.
And the TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt storyline, I could so care less about now. I hope that they kill the storyline, but I'd like to see them fight again. Like, I'd love to see those guys fight again without all the hubbub and the drama.
Yeah, I mean, all that sort of wrestling promo stuff gets really old. I get it. It's better to sell fights being, wearing the black hat. And I just get a little, I guess I'm getting too old for it, but it's like all that shit talking,
But they're not even good at it is my problem. Neither side.
I don't like listening to TJ Dillashaw talk, but I love watching him fight.
I completely agree.
when he talks, I don't want to like him, but then when I see him fight, I like him. He's just got a style that's just fun.
Well, and I honestly believe that him and Cody and Dominic Cruz could easily still get back in there. Like these three guys may just switch the belt around between the three of them for the next few years.
If ever there was a reason for UFC to steal a page from professional wrestling and do a three-way match, it would be that fight.
That would be very, very interesting. I think that they're going to try to get DJ into that mix though, because not your DJ, Demetrius Johnson, the DJ I make fun of all the time.
The guy hasn't had a competitive fight in 10 years. Yeah.
And people are thoroughly bored by him, not because he's not one of the greatest ever, but because it's too easy for him to keep doing it. I mean, and Jose Aldo had a little bit of this problem for a while. Anderson Silva even had this problem for a little while. Yeah. And they have to find a foil for DJ, but DJ is kidding himself and thinking that that's not necessary, that he can just be this Zen-like video game playing martial arts master and anyone's going to give a fuck. He's got to have that fight that elevates him. John Dodson really tried, but John Dodson is a little bit past his prime now. But the problem is TJ Dillashaw is the one guy that could probably get down to DJ's weight, or the one guy up at 35 that DJ would probably fight. But that's the last guy I want to see DJ fight. There's no drama or interest there. Like Garbrandt, maybe.
But it'd be interesting. You'd watch it.
I'd certainly watch it. But do I think that that's going to be his great nemesis that's going to elevate him like Chael Sonnen did for Silva? Fuck no.
Yeah, he's I'd say Rio Chonin did for Silva.
Sure.
That's my favorite. The flying heel hook defeat of Anderson Silva by Rio Chonin.
Oh my God.
Did you ever watch that? You ever seen that? How long has it been since you've seen that one?
Oh, years and years and years.
Rio was one of Jason Mayhem Miller's little buddies that used to hang around him all the time.
Yeah, I've met him several times.
The Japanese caveman. One of the more interesting.
He's like the Japanese Clay Guida, is what it is.
Yeah, even weirder. Like the whole relationship with Jason and Rio was very strange. And got to know, I
can't surprise you coming from Jason, though, of all people. I mean, Jason's a little bit of a freak show, as much as I love him to death. Like,
they would all bust on Chonin all the time. Shut up, Chonin! Shut up, Chonin! And they said, Chonin tapped out Anderson Silva 2 years ago. Like, okay, but he was kind of a bit of a joke for those guys. That whole group.
Everybody's got one in there somewhere, and I don't know.
Everybody has their moment.
So GSP now, does GSP really re-enter the conversation as one of the greatest ever now?
He's got to go down to 70 and fight somebody good there. Who do you want to see him fight at 70?
Connor.
Yes.
See Connor come up to 70 and him go down. But George said that, he's not going to chase a smaller guy. So basically, I think if Dana comes at him with that fight, but do we really want to see GSP versus Robert Whittaker at 85? That doesn't make much sense. No. I think he vacates, lets Robert become the actual champion, goes back to 70 in some fashion.
He needs to go back to 70.
I don't know what the fight there is.
I'm just glad Bisping is no longer the champion. That's all I'm happy about.
Yeah, poor Mike. Mike did his thing, but look, he had a great run at the end. He got his win over Anderson. He got all of his revenges. He got to prove a point. Now he can be done. Yeah. But he's fighting again. Did you see this thing? He's scheduled to fight in 3 weeks.
The guy, I will give him credit. He's durable and a gamer. He will fight anyone, anytime. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, like, people can say he's full of shit on a great many subjects, but it's not in turning down fights. I mean,
nope. He is a fighter. There are athletes and there are fighters, and that dude is a fighter. For sure.
Absolutely, 110%. So,
I was just mad when he got revenge on Dan Henderson. I just wanted Dan Henderson to knock him out twice.
You wanted to see that old H-bomb.
Just for the gift.
I actually had money on Bisping in that fight.
It's reasonable that you would.
Right. I just felt like Hendo's jaw. There was that little hairline fracture in here somewhere now.
That happens when you turn 50.
50? He's that young?
No, right? Yeah. He was in high school wrestling when I was in high school wrestling in the mid 80s. So that's how old he is. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I think that I'm really happy about season 4. I'm ecstatic, and I'm very happy that you came on and kind of got some of the news out there now. I'm sure the dirt sheets will get it all wrong tomorrow. I'm sure some talent or somebody will talk to somebody and they'll misunderstand it and everything will be silly, but they can always come here and hear the correct version.
You guys are the ones that call me and ask me the information, so I will always give it to you.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much. There's still questions out there, but I realize, man, this thing's like 2 days old. There needs to be some gestation time. I know you guys got to get to work, and your Christmas is fucked. I mean, you're going to be working your butt off. I got to assume if you're trying to get going.
I got another show that I want to come on here and talk about when it's officially announced.
Please do. Absolutely. I'm waiting for that, too. You know I am.
You're going to like it. You're going to like it. It's going to be fun. You're going to like it. You guys want to keep talking? So should I just sign off and let you guys make fun of Casey for another 30 minutes?
We'll let you out of here. We probably won't talk much longer. Anybody else got anything else for EV Dub?
Real quick, I know you haven't even gotten the temple back just yet, but will there be any changes made to the temple at all, like seating or even just design-wise?
It's a little too early. Like, okay, if we go back to the temple, probably not. But we may not be able to go back to the temple, in which case there will be a change. But I have a backup plan. I mean, I have a legitimate backup plan in LA, which I like. Part of me kind of wants to, because it would be crazy, and story-wise, it would go to some weird places.
I think I have an idea what this is, even though you have not told me. I have a sneaking suspicion.
But I will say I have scouted other locations in case the temple we don't come through, and I found something that's really weird and really good.
How are tickets going to go down this year?
Yeah,
I know you don't know the answer.
Because we keep thinking, how do we keep people from lining up, like spending their entire night out in front of that thing? Like, I feel bad for. Well, at first it used to just be morning, and then we were like, no, you got to come back, and then you got to draw a ticket, and then people would line up at 2 a.m, and the whole thing.
Ticket to draw, like to wait for the line to wait.
I'm trying to figure out, and this is up to Josie, wonderful, awesome Josie, who knows everything. We're trying to figure out, like, why can't we do it like Southwest Airlines, where you have the, you RSVP and you get a number, and then you come line up in that number. I mean, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
And then you wrestle someone to not be kicked off the show.
I'm going to say this, man. I think, honestly, I really think your solution is, fuck it. You just cast the bleachers, and then you sell the other seats.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell tickets though. It's selling tickets.
Okay, well, so you cast, but I think you cast the bleachers every week. I think you let those be those guys, your Chiaquis, your Mil Machetes, your CJ De Niro's, KC, the guy Jim. They're the guys that come all the time. You give them the first priority and give them maybe even a day advance, because those are the guys that you want in the bleachers.
Yeah, it's true.
And then after that, then you fill in with everybody else.
But it's funny because you notice, like, I even notice when you watch some of the episodes, when there's matches taped later in the day, like towards this second show towards the end, you see some people that have literally been there for 24 hours, melting into their chairs at the end of the match, and they're completely dead. And you're just like, if you hadn't spent 16 hours out in the freezing cold last night, you'd be hot right now. But,
right. Well, it just depends. It's like, and some of those people have even changed, and there's a few that have been there almost every time. But I don't know. I feel like you really cast the bleachers more than worry about any kind of ticket policy. For the sake of the show, you always find a way to get those people that you want on that side, or those fans that are most excited. Maybe even you give them a chance to get at tickets a whole day ahead of everyone else before you put it out to the general, like, let's make sure we have this place filled audience. Yeah, that's just my thought.
No, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, we've all argued this 100 times. Like, do you go to the same people that have come every week? And there's a certain argument of like, yeah, those are your regulars, those are the people. But do they get spoiled? And like, do you get a hotter audience if it's a bunch of first timers? I don't know. Like sometimes, but I don't know what the answer is. Believe me, these exact discussions we have all had. How do we do it smart?
Well, I have a feeling this one's going to be a pain in your butt, because I think the demand for tickets, especially when people realize it's going to be a little shorter season, the demand for tickets is going to be very, very high, and you're going to have some grumpy, sad people.
I'm like, Saving some for Meatloaf, though. You know.
Yes.
I'll leave him at will call with his name on it for every tape.
You'll just see me walking around really nervous because, like, LA scares the shit into me as an idea.
No, Boyle Heights is the safest place in Los Angeles. There's nothing to worry about.
I live
like bougie.
I live in the countryside by the sea. I live in the sea by a seaside. I live like in the middle of nowhere. I've got a nice little bit of water. Like literally, a cat getting up a tree is like the biggest news.
Look, just so you know, Meef, it's a shoot. Boyle Heights is the fucking hood. Okay, that is the one part of Lucha Underground that is not faked. If it's back at the
it's like art galleries and like hipsters and man buns and gay couples now. It's crazy.
I'll fit in then.
Well, after Ultimately to Tress, someone like a taco truck around the corner that some of the other believers were at got hit by a car.
A drunk driver or somebody rolled over drove a car through the taco truck and some of the people there.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple people died.
That's drive through tacos. You know,
I don't think our people I think some of our people were there, but it wasn't.
Yeah, none of our people got hurt. No.
Vic helped people like try to get out of the way. I remember
Vic was there.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Albert.
And if you also listen to our last episode where we found our lost episode, you can hear us talking about it the next day. That's the first thing we talked about in the lost episode.
Yeah.
What did live reactions.
What did you think about that, Eric? Our lost episode.
Oh, like Eric
was I on the llast episode?
No. What we did was after Ultima Lucha Trace, we were so hyped up that we came back and recorded an episode that we knew we weren't going to be able to play for months, is what we thought, Eric. But it ended up being 16 months later when we finally were able to dust this episode off, and we dropped it into the middle of last week's episode. Where
Casey still had a girlfriend back then, probably, right?
He still does. He still has his girlfriend in Vegas, I believe. I think.
Yeah, Jesus, this hot take.
Oh yeah, no. His Twitter says he's in a committed relationship.
He's in a committed relationship.
The Pentagon
says he should be committed for relationships. I see that. It's right there. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got for you, Eric. Get out of here. Go spend some time with your family. Thank you so much for coming on and answering all these questions. I hope all the dirt sheets actually reprint this stuff because it's true. Instead of the false lies.
To the MMM show, because these guys actually reach out and ask me questions personally. It's good. Hey, Jim and Joe, glad to spend the night with you.
Cheers,
very much, EV Dub.
Not you so much, Byron.
Come on.
Now he knows how this show actually works.
Yeah.
We need a new guest now to come on. One that
likes you and will put you over as much as you put yourself over. No, thank you.
We'll get a sexy star on.
Please do.
All right, guys.
Never
all right.
Good to see
Cheers,
y'all.
Eric. Thank you.
See you in somewhere in LA in February. All right.
We'll be there.
We shall see you then. Wow.
Why was he just mean to me?
Because he's a smart person.
Why?
He's a very smart and knowledgeable, intelligent, bright young man.
What did I ever do?
Nothing.
That's it.
Literally nothing. Well, so what are you excited? Are you excited
for season 4 now? Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with will it happen? Won't it happen? That's finally gone.
But does it sting to know that it's going to be a little bit less than what it was in season 3?
I mean, a little bit, but I'm also one of those people who believes that sometimes less is more, so they could put more quality stuff into these fewer episodes. EV-Dub was right. I think even though they were fun to watch, I think last season was very vignette heavy. And now we're going to see more action in the ring, and the vignettes are going to take a little bit, less time, a little bit less of Vinny eating pizza in the bathroom.
Oh, come on. No, wait a minute. We got to have lots of Vinny eating pizza in the bathroom.
I mean, that's the easiest thing to shoot. So I feel like we'll probably see less vignettes in the bathroom, but the only vignettes in the bathroom we see are just Vinny.
Yeah.
they're all Vinny vignettes.
Yeah.
They need to get a feud started where someone bumps into his pizza box.
Well, I mean, yeah, that'd be funny. I think the thing that we're definitely not going to see some of the filler matches. I mean, I think that there's no, with a season that short, maybe a squash match or two, but I think that you probably lose some of the stuff that's just filler to drag a storyline out to where it needs to go. I think you just really get those key matches. Now, where I think that something like that would be a shame a little bit is like, look at how the AR Fox Killshot feud built. And there was a few matches that at the beginning of that would have kind of been seen as throwaway matches in the grand scheme of things, and you'd probably lose matches like that. But that feud built perfectly to me in season 3.
Yeah, I also, on top of that, I think that we're probably, those of us in the temple will probably see less dark matches now if they're trying to get in as much taping time as possible. Instead of just trying someone out to see if they fit, they'll probably just do that, like, without a crowd and just have people.
They'll probably do it at 10 a.m. and then say, okay, it's going into the show later today.
Yeah.
We'll be outside waiting in line.
It'd be like the Worldwide Underground. I'm sorry, but I really hate them. But but it just dragged. Like, I know that because obviously the series was like 40 episodes, and obviously like there was the break, but it did seem to, like, I'm not being rude, but like the lead up to like Ultima Luchatress was like quite draggy. It just dragged a little bit, and I got really bored and tired of Worldwide Underground. And we all love the Rabbit Tribe, but they aren't exactly the most.
There is no but.
Pointless. They're not. They're kind of pointless.
No.
Well, I don't think Meef is wrong. But I don't feel like it's pointless. I feel like they haven't gotten to the point yet, nor did they intend to. I feel that was one of DJ's more long-term plans. Put it in place, see how it's working, let it be a little bit of a joke at first, and then you guys just wait. I'm going to do something with it. And I'm pretty sure DJ has a very solid plan from some of the stuff I've heard London say about, like, that there's a real running storyline there to go. And it's not just a joke. I think DJ's starting it as a joke, but he's going to turn it on its ears and leave you with something that's a little beefier at the end. Now, with a shorter season, I feel like the Chris's and Stolman have their work cut out for them to come up with exciting, creative stuff that can't breathe as much as that. Because DJ likes his shit to breathe. He likes to play the long game, and he's going to have to play a little bit more of the short con, a little bit more sleight of hand, a little bit more hot shotty, and just make things happen.
It's almost like there's enough loose ends right now that are just floating out there, like the pictures of the island with the dolls, and then the amulet. But
I don't think those are loose ends. I think that those are deliberate.
Yeah, they're just
opportunities that they've left themselves.
They don't do every single story they don't finish it at the season finale. They have a lot that will continue on later. This, something might be a first 4 episodes of season 4 arc or something. But it seems like there's a lot of those. There's a lot of stories that are ready to kick off and go into their climax. And that might fill a lot of next season already without coming up with new stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's kind of good because of the way that it's worked out in terms of the filming, etc. To just get a quick 20 episode season, just oof, and you've already got it half written. If you know what I mean.
I like the idea of the continuity with finding a season to film, season to air, and then the off season where the wrestlers and all the talent know that they can try and book as much other work as they can. So that way, you can be more loyal because then the show itself is more dependent.
Well, that brings up another question.
Promotion.
That's not really fair to ask while EV-Dub is here, but it is a legit question, which is, we know that there's talent issues going on out there. Like I know of some of them firsthand, and they're out there. There's some guys that were clearly like, oh my God, I can't believe I signed up for this thing where I haven't worked in 18 months on TV now. So do you think that, what EV-Dub, and we all know EV-Dub's a nice guy and he doesn't wish anyone harm, but they were obviously trying to protect things a little more at a certain point in time. Do you think that this new idea of letting these guys work more and being a little more open is going to quell some of that anxiety in the locker room? Or do you think that those guys that have issues are still going to have issues?
Well, I mean, I think there are two different points here. Number one, it opens the door up to a lot of people if a lot of the original Lucha fighters, I guess, decide to leave. You know, you can have the guys from Ring of Honor, from maybe even New Japan or PWG guys come in, and you know, they could take over. But on top of that, I think a lot of people might get upset because if those kind of people come in, it's less lucha. You know, you're having a lot less of the, you know, AAA guys come in, and the whole show is based on the fact that it's, you know, based on Lucha Libre.
Well, I mean, I think you're still going to get a certain amount of that, just because I think that Dorian and his investors at Lucha Libre FMV still have to find a way to capitalize on their original idea, which was to take portions of AAA, Americanize them, and find new revenue streams and new fan bases. So I don't believe that part of it's ever going to stop. I think if every guy who's currently in there that ever came from or is involved with AAA right now was gone, Dorian would bring 20 more of those guys. I think you're always going to have almost a 50-50 split between luchadors and indie guys in Lucha Underground, because it just makes sense. And Dorian will always still have at least that amount of say unless somebody buys his end out, which there'd be no reason to at this point. So I do find it interesting. I'm just wondering, I mean, like, really, you know, and I kind of asked Eric this question, maybe not so directly, was the Sami Callihan situation, because I don't want to put EV-Dub on the spot about it. It's not really worth it to me to know the answer. But the way that I kind of saw it happening is, I know Sammy's not the same as the other people that have already showed up there. And I feel like we know Sammy's been having some gripes about Lucha Underground. He's very, very popular on the indies. He's a guy that could clearly go a lot of places. And I feel like, you know, Sammy probably found a situation where it was like, guys, maybe I can keep doing something for you, but you got to do something for me. And that they made the call like, okay, well, if we want to keep Jeremiah Crane, we got to let Sami Callihan show up at TNA. Are we willing to do that? Our contract says we don't have to let him do that. You know, and he doesn't have a AAA contract. He is not a AAA talent. He is a Lucha Underground performer and an indie performer who has that clause that says you can't be on US television. So, but it seems like that's been laxed. That's been let go, unless there's some lawsuit pending that we don't know about, but I don't think that there is. I think that they actually have I think done the right thing and said, Sammy, if you can get yourself on that program, you know, and you'll still come back to us, please do.
I think it's interesting where
or maybe he's let go altogether. I don't know. I am speculating. This is rumor mongering. This is what I say, you know, but I'm not reporting it as fact or news, by the way. I'm wondering, because as soon as I saw Sammy's name come up, I said, whoa, this does not fit the model of everything that I know.
The other thing as well is the clusterfuck at the minute with TNA, because they are actually moving to Canada.
Yeah. So like Ty couldn't do
that's like really, yeah. So like Ty's got problems with going there. Jim Cornette, who they brought in to replace Bruce Pritchard, like within a month had to go because he can't go to Canada and come back to America or some shit. So that like,
they're a hot mess, but they're a hot mess with a TV deal.
Yeah.
They've been around for a long. They've been around longer than what, ECW. I mean, it's for all you could say about them. You have to give them.
Oh yeah, but the thing, so like they've got the UK deal, because at one point when the WWE were looking at, and other people were looking at buying TNA, it was purely because they had like the UK deals, so like you could just replace your product straight away, just put your product in, replacing Impact. But the thing with what was I going to say about Callahan? Oh, I can't remember now. Go for it. Sorry.
Well, I think I really like, and I really think that it makes a lot of sense, EV-Dub's what he was saying about how they're going to relax the exclusivity. I think that is something that's going to make a difference in, I think, moving forward. Mostly, I think where you're going to get is where you're going to repair those, you know, burnt bridges where people got sore over the layoff and all that stuff. I think they would, if you're going to make amends with them, it's because they're excited to get back at it. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be that happy about being able to work elsewhere if they're already upset.
Well, I think, look, at least at the very least, I think the level of transparency from the company to the talent is going to be more prevalent now because it wasn't available before. Yeah. I don't think that any of those performers should have taken it as them being lied to, even though, in fact, I think some of their circumstance was a little bit misrepresented because I think the guys thought that it was going to stay in production more because people were talking about doing 48 episode seasons back to back all the time and touring and these things. Yeah. But I think at least now anyone that is getting involved with Lucha Underground or staying or choosing to stay involved with Lucha Underground will understand the realistic landscape of we're going to tape a bunch of this all at once. It's going to be good for you because then that TV time is going to be spread out over, 3 or 4 months in the summer or whatever, while you can also be out working and upping your asking prices and whatnot. But at the same time, we're not going to provide for you year round. You're going to still have to provide for yourself. Basically what they're saying is you come work Lucha Underground, you're not a made guy. You're still going to have to be an indie presence and an indie talent to take care of yourself, which I prefer.
I think it makes sense. But to be fair, when TNA started doing that a while back, and they were even booking their guys out and taking kind of a booker's fee, that felt weird at the time, and it felt like a step back. And Did it feel weird? It's going to be like a step back for. I mean, it's progress in all reality for Lucha Underground, but it's going to feel like a step back from what everyone really wanted it to be.
As long as the storylines stay protected, I think they're fine. Sorry, go ahead, Meef.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing is like basically AAA have done that for years, and like all companies have done that for years. But the other thing I was going to say was in terms of its brand exposure, because I'm not being rude, like Lucha Underground kind of was hot as shit. Series 1, Season 2 was great, but it kind of started to go down a little bit because merchandise, touring, and all that stuff got involved. And I think really where they left off in Season 3, whilst we were excited and we stayed it, and I will use the phrase "stuck it out." Like they've lost a bit of their momentum. So like when TNA started using their guys earlier in the year, they're saying, "Oh, Hijo del Fantasma works on Lucha Underground as King Cuerno. Drago is on Lucha Underground." So like not only is that being broadcast around the world, so I'm not being funny, but there's people in the UK when I go to shows don't have a fucking clue, but they watch Impact because it's on free TV here. You can get it on pretty much all of the on Spike TV. Right. So the people just watch and go, "Oh, well, Lucha Underground, what's this?" You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. And the other thing is the guys make more money, won't they? And they'll be able to charge more money, and they'll be able to go somewhere else, and they can possibly learn things. Or because you're letting, say, Pentagon appear on a New Japan show or something silly like that, it might lead to certain other good people being able to come in. You're working better with other companies, which means they might release some of their really top quality stars, or even someone who they don't think is top quality, but someone who actually is great and would add to storylines can come across a bit easier. So I think it's going to work for everybody.
Well, there's one part of it that's going to be tricky, and that is the crash. I think that's still an issue because I think they're right to relax the rules with TNA and Ring of Honor and Noah, but CMLL and the Crash are both still direct competitors.
Well, the Crash is basically born as something to spite Dorian. That's kind of like the basic.
It's been around for 7 years or so now, isn't it? So
Crash, I mean, look, it's not.
Crash has been around for years. Crash has been around for 6 years.
Conan's involvement might be a little bit of that, but at the same time, he just wants to work and have a crucial position at a company. He wants to do what he was doing at AAA and Lucha Underground anywhere that he can. Period. So I don't necessarily even think that he does it to spite them. I think that he certainly has a certain amount of animosity towards AAA at this point, and I think that he certainly doesn't mind screwing them over at any turn. But it puts some of these guys in a weird position because that's the company where I don't think Lucha Underground should make the exception. And some people are probably going to get mad at me for saying that, but stylistically, they're more of a direct competitor.
Yeah,
you know, they're using those talent in a similar fashion. I think it impacts the story for those guys to be in the Crash doing those gimmicks. I don't think it impacts the stories at Lucha Underground for them to be doing it at TNA or Ring of Honor or Japan. So I think that's the weird spot, because if you write the rule to be broad enough to include all of those other places, do you still then not make the exception for the Crash? And I'm saying this, if the Crash gets U.S. television distribution, which I know everyone knows they're trying to do. Like, what if Pentagon is in the pilot for the Crash to be a national, United States nationally syndicated or televised show? Does that not become an issue?
I mean, the other thing as well today, I don't know if you've been watching, but something's going on again with old DR.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dorian's pulled some shit again by the looks of things. If you look at the Master Republic Twitter timeline, we can all guess what they're
and that's another issue where you have EV Dub coming out and being the voice of reason and sanity and transparency, and just saying, I want to put on a good show, and I want everyone to do the best they can with their careers, and I want the other shows to do well. And then you find a partner,
a big partner. You find like Dorian is also like someone you have to answer to when you work at Lucha Underground, allegedly doing a bunch of like still spiteful stuff with stars who left AAA, who left.
Well, okay, and so let's look at that realistically, because I'm not willing to completely paint Dorian as a bad guy. What I will say, because look, he was one of the people fighting side by side with EV Dub 2 weeks ago to make season 4 happen. And he does believe in it. He believes in the guys. He believes in the product. Mm-hmm. There is a certain passion that Dorian has. And let's be honest, we would not be fans of this show. This show would not exist without Dorian. Mm-hmm. It just would not. So if you're a Lucha Underground fan, you have to give it a certain amount of appreciation, just like you have to give Vince McMahon a certain amount of appreciation. You can dislike his product all day long right now, but if you're a real wrestling fan, you have to have some amount of love for Vince McMahon. Dorian for us, for the LuchaKliq, for people who are believers, has to hold that same place for you. And I'm sorry to say this, but that's just the case. He doesn't necessarily have it all down yet. He does have a tendency to want to go after, I think, some of those guys who he feels have wronged him. And no, I don't personally believe it's right. I don't at all. But I also can't say that he doesn't have a leg to stand on. These were guys that had contracts with him that walked out, and now he's trying to mess with them a little bit. He's saying, look, we got season 4 coming, but you still fucked me on this other thing, even though I know you can show up there. You can't be out there using my IP. You can't be doing the stuff I'm letting other people do. He's clearly trying to rub it in their face a little bit. I mean, those guys are more cut off from the wrestling world than anybody else because of it. But did they not make their choice when they walked out?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's reasons.
Yeah. So I think if we're going to get into the specific thing, I think it's kind of been a long road traveled already. I think everyone there is already, like, we don't need to get in the middle and fight those battles, because those guys already know what they're doing and what they're going through and what they're going to, go through. As long as they stay on the same path. Like, if you're going to work with Lucha Underground, then you have to live with your circumstance somehow. But I think there's a little bit of like, I'm knocking my mic over. It's like good cop, bad cop, right? But it's not really a game that uses that type of dynamic. You know what I mean?
I think that this is a last jab at these guys. I really do. I understand why the Masked Republic guys are ticked, because all they do is spend all of their time trying to help these guys.
Yeah.
And be very altruistic in a lot of ways. I mean, look, they're still trying to make money, but they are still very altruistic in the nature of the concept of they're trying to make money by doing right by luchadors. Expo Lucha looks awesome. They are friends with these guys, and the fact that they do business on a personal level with a lot of these guys. Mm-hmm. So it hurts when you see those guys that you're trying to help getting fucked with. But I also, you know, like, eventually these things get let go. It's the wrestling business. We'll see how far some of this stuff goes. I'd like to think that this is one last jab at these dudes, like, haha, we got season 4, but I'm still going to fuck with you. And then once they all get in a room, and it will happen, all these guys are going to be in a room, because plane tickets are going to start getting bought. Storylines are going to start getting written. Big dollars are going to be at hand, you know, with slightly tighter budgets. The margin for error is not there. These things will be dialed in before those temple doors open again. And we'll see. We'll see if people are the bigger man. We'll see if money talks and bullshit walks, because that may be what it really boils down to. Like, hey, we got a product. This is the product. The product is Dorian and Penta El Cero Miedo figure out how to get along. That may be what makes everyone who both of those gentlemen are beholden to happy, and because that's where the money is.
I don't think
he's got the belt.
Yeah. I was going to say, the other thing as well is, if you were behind the scenes there, the first thing you would do on, not maybe day one, but the day before day one, is you go, right, we're locking you in a room. You're going to be adults, and you're just going to go, we both upset each other.
Yeah.
Let's get over shit. We got to make some money. Let's just nut the fuck up and just, you just got to get on with it. Because
look, how many times has a stubborn champion and a shiesty promoter come to terms to do one more match?
Yeah,
come on, like a million times, and that's pretty much what's going on here. I mean, Penta had his moment of look, I don't care anymore. I'm the fuck out of here finally. And, Dorian's had his moments of screw you. I don't care about you, and I'm screwing you over. Fuck you. These guys have had their moments together, but Pentagon's got the strap, man. The storyline gave him the strap, and that still, no matter what you say, no matter how many belts have been stripped away from people, that still carries juice. And even more so now, because you're talking about a TV network that has just paid money for a TV show that left with a cliffhanger of this guy being champion. Not a wrestling show where you can just rewrite it and rescript it next week and get the crowd to pop a different way. This is a TV show. That's the cliffhanger. Penta has the belt. He has to come back.
That's how the situation worked out well. Because let's be honest, if he didn't have that belt, we could surmise where things might have gone. But because
I think it'd be a much more tentative situation if he didn't have that belt.
Yep.
I think it'd be a lot scarier for him and for Phoenix.
So now they've, I think it's got you're doing business. You've just got to fucking forget shit and try and iron out some kinks for personal relationships or whatever you're gonna get on. But like you said before, how many people you don't like your boss? You know what I mean? You don't have to love everybody.
Well, I just hope the worst case scenario to me is that these guys say fuck it and try to break their MGM contract too and go somewhere else on their own. That's my biggest fear at this point.
Do you think they do that?
But then again, they would have legitimate grounds for that. I mean, I'm not,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they have legitimate grounds to break an American contract. A contract in Mexico and a contract in America are two different things.
No, but
that will start World War III, and that will make the good people involved have to be against each other. Yeah. And that would be unfortunate to me.
That's why they have to sort the shit out. Because, I'm not being rude, but, in law terms or whatever you want to get into, in terms of employment law, they would have some pretty big grounds to be able to turn around and go, you know what, this dickhead's here and he's making us not being able to, the working situation not being correct for them. So I'm pretty sure they could have some.
But how? I mean, they can't do that with their MGM contract because the.
Oh, yeah. I suppose
I'm saying if they break their MGM contract, there's trouble because MGM has done everything that they ever said that they were going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've shown that they don't mess around. Like Hernandez had episodes of TV just deleted from existence because of a contract issue.
An entire angle gone, like a month's worth of tapings gone.
So it's different than I think walking out of a promotion and saying you want to work somewhere else. I mean they, leave a Lucha Underground. I mean, but then again, if you want to leave, the doors open. It's just like you got to work with them and just close out your story. So the TV show, the integrity of the show is still intact. That's
it's like that weird Mike Awesome crazy thing, the belt drop. I mean, crazier things have happened.
That was a great moment for the industry, though.
Where you had 3 promotions coming together in a giant clusterfuck just to fix a belt situation. Yeah.
WWE, well, he wasn't an announcer at the time.
It's amazing the steps that they took just to preserve some sort of kayfabe. It's crazy.
Whereas, like, they've just taken the belt off of someone for no reason so many times in any of the wrestling shows. Like WCW, one of the times they brought on Russo and Bischoff, one of the times they brought them back. And they're like, all the champions gave up their belts and we're starting over just because.
That's because it's Vince Russo and he's just Vince Russo.
Yeah. that's the word.
That's the best way to put it. He's literally just a Vince Russo.
That's true.
I was a big fan of Vince Russo, though, but I'm also a big fan of J.J. Abrams, who does the same kind of thing in the Star Trek universe. Like, I'm just going to throw out the whole thing with a little rift in the space-time continuum.
Like, this scene is beginning to drag. Let's do a lens flare.
Did they do that with X-Men? Did they do that with X-Men as well? Kind of just... Yeah. I've tried to avoid the last X-Men films because, they killed Apocalypse really badly. Sorry,
I haven't seen it.
Spoilers, Byron. Game of Thrones.
Don't watch it. Just don't watch it.
Game of Thrones season 1 is still a spoiler to you. No one's waiting for you anymore, bro.
Well, I've seen season 1, but I don't remember it. So yeah, it would be a spoiler.
Yeah.
Ned Stark dies.
First, I have to know who he is.
It's Sean Bean.
He's the one who looks like you, but sounds way cooler.
He's from my part of the world, actually. Where I'm born and bred. He's from about 19 miles down the road from where I used to live.
He sounds a bit me-fish.
Yeah, but he's from Yorkshire.
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. You like Yorkshire puddings? You know Yorkshire puddings? No.
I know Yorkshire pudding. I'm familiar with the concept.
Okay.
The concept of pudding.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of interesting things. I'm sorry. I apologize to the viewers of this show that we waited so long, but this season we didn't want to just come back and have a bunch of filler episodes. We wanted to wait till this moment, come back, have something real to talk about with real information, not just speculation. But you see where it leads. We got real information, and now I just have more speculation. I mean, I could have Evie Dub here forever going over these things, but I know that many of these things, the answer is, dude, we just got the deal. We haven't answered all these questions yet. We'll figure out what talent's going to be there. We'll start making phone calls. Like he said it on here, he hasn't even talked to Cross yet,
and that's a big deal. That's a big deal when you're trying to rebuild trust with your cast that you've kind of not been able to fulfill obligations to for over a year.
Yes, and Eric didn't say this, but I know that they did inform the cast about what's going on with the shorter order, with what's going on with the season. That's starting to tell the cast what's up with that. I know that he's been working on that stuff, and that's part of the reason why I couldn't get him any sooner. He told me flat out, like, hey, no offense to you guys, I love you guys, I'd love to talk with you guys, but I'm going to talk to my talent and my people that have worked with me and been with me through thick and thin on this project, and let them know first, and then we'll talk. And we're the first people probably after that to know a lot of this stuff. And now hopefully all of the LuchaKliq and the real fans will know that. And this is a great place to do it, where the information will hopefully get to the real people. I won't say the right people, but the real people first, and not through the rumor mills, or, even though there's clearly bigger media outlets to release this information to. It's cool that he did it here. I think it's very respectful that, he did give the people that he's close to a heads up first and get them in the loop before talking to us publicly. And, you know, and now hopefully everyone will start to understand the landscape of what's going on there, and that it's really just a group of people trying to make a great TV show.
Yeah.
Maybe one day it will be a great wrestling promotion, but it's not. It's a great TV show.
Yeah, if I may say, Justin, this show is the best Lucha Underground related podcast in the sense that.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome, Byron. Is the fact that you perfectly explain the fact that yes, it is a television show, not a promotion. It's not a roster, it's a cast. And I don't know. I've tried explaining this to multiple people, and I don't understand. Like, you wouldn't expect like the cast of The Big Bang Theory to go through like something that, you know, Dean Ambrose or Seth Rollins goes through. It's like completely different worlds.
Well, true. But for this show, it's like I think of this podcast more like it's Talking Dead than, you know, some wrestling insider locker room thing. Like, I don't expect people to come on here and cut shoot interviews about all the stuff that happened on the road. I think more like come and tell us a cool backstage story about, you know, the light that fell or the makeup that you did that day and, you know, how many squibs they used. Like, this is Talking Dead, basically. I mean, that's what this is. This is an after show for a TV show.
Talking Lucha?
Yeah, I mean, what did we say it was?
Talking Lucha Underground. I don't know.
No.
I don't
That's
remember.
a really bad name.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Meatloaf was a really bad name.
But I just...
Yeah, but I used to look like Meatloaf because I had long hair. And my friend got drunk and couldn't say meatloaf, so he said Meatloaf, and that's how Meatloaf was born.
Oh, how long your origin story?
Right, Byron.
This is a good question. So Colt Icon is asking, how much of the roster do we expect to be back? Look, the Rey Mysterio question, that was a genuine one for me. I don't know where he stands right now. I know his contract was vastly different from everyone else's, and obviously he's a big ticket item. If you have less money, you got to think that without guys like that, you get more of your cast back. But if all of a sudden you have to make a deal with Rey as part of that budget and try to get him in for a few episodes, I think you see a much smaller cast. And I will say this. I think it's worth it to have that discussion before you figure out the rest of the cast. Like, Rey might be one of the first phone calls you got to make. You're obviously going to pay Mundo. You're going to pay Penta. You're going to pay some of these guys. Some of the AAA guys that have been loyal are going to get their money. Tejano and Cuerno and these guys. I think you bring back Ivelisse and give her one more go-round and hope she doesn't break. I think you lose Sexy Star, honestly, because she was a big-ticket item and she's no longer under contract. You don't need her as much as I want to see her come back as a heel. The weird one to me is PJ Black. I got to say, you probably lose him for the money.
Yeah,
I really like the guy, but I don't know that
he's become injury prone too.
Yeah, I don't know that he's one of the ones that's worth the expense. And these are the hard decisions they're going to have to make. Yeah. But I mean, look, you free up some room under the cap if you don't have a PJ Black in there because he's not cheap.
There's the thing about PJ Black is that with us, like, we're familiar wrestling fans, and so when we see him, you know, we know who he is and we know where his standing was when he left WWE. And so, like, for us, it's like if we were to rank Worldwide Underground, he would be at the bottom. I mean, they're all awesome, whatever, except, you know,
maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if I'd say that. I just feel like.
But I'd say, like, to a conventional fan, they'll tune into Lucha Underground, and of, like, the few faces they'll recognize out of the whole show, PJ Black is going to be one of them.
And honestly, like, I don't know that you even break up the Worldwide Underground. I'm just trying to think of places where maybe you could save some money, but I don't know. It's like some of these gimmicks are so integral to the show, even if the part is small. Even if PJ only had 5 matches all of last season, how many angles was he in just because he's part of Worldwide Underground? You know? And then, like, guys like Madelson, the Luchasaurus, whatever, Vibora, whatever the hell his name is. Like, I don't think he's all that expensive. And I think you want to bring him back because of that character. But at the same time, they didn't exactly use him a ton either. So then you got to think, like, okay, if these are the guys we're bringing back, how the fuck do we use them and make it worth it? Because there's no cheap TV time now. All that TV time's got to count for something if you're only doing 20 episodes.
You got to trim the fat.
They got to trim something somewhere.
And the other thing as well is not being rude to anybody, but Rey Mysterio, because he obviously brings in money. You know what I mean? He brings in viewership because of his name.
Right.
But there's certain people on there that you could probably get rid of and get 2 guys who you can make into stars.
Well, and that's the trick. And that is the trick. But the thing is, you do that, you're getting rid of names.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know that anyone's necessarily going to get cut. I'm sure that there are lots of other things, like Eric said, you know, departments at MGM that were responsible for parts of the show that would have 5 people in them might have 4 or 3.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be asking for a job on Lucha Underground. I'm going to ask for Eric for a job on whatever the next thing is, because clearly they need to trim some fat, not add some at Lucha. So, you know, what do you do? I don't know. These are the things that I find interesting that I think we're going to be speculating for a while about, that I don't think we'll get the answers to maybe in 2017. I think most of these answers will be coming in 2018. I'm sure talent will start leaking out various things as they are individually contacted. I believe they were all contacted as a group. We'll see. We'll see where it all lands. And yes, I do understand, chat room, that all of the Lucha Underground talent that are under any kind of contract are, of course, saying that they are coming back. I believe that if they have contracts, then most likely will. But we'll see. We will see. We'll see if some of these guys ask for releases. We'll see if Lucha Underground tries to let some people go out of their contracts.
Well, I mean, renegotiations.
We had until the end of the negotiating process for season 4 to find out if and what season 4 was going to be, and I think now we have until the taping start to find out who actually will be back.
Yeah, well, if you're talent though, renegotiating right now, you're fucked.
Yeah,
you're not going to get more money.
No.
Oh no! I mean, like Lucha Underground.
Oh, may come back and say, hey, if you really want this exposure, blah blah blah. Yeah, but who can you really do that with? You can't. You're not going to do that with like a PJ Black, but maybe you can do that with like a Thunder Rosa. I don't know. Like who needs to be there? I don't even think she needs to be there, to tell you the truth. She's doing so good on the indies and she books so much. She got her own damn promotion. Like, who are the people that need Lucha Underground? Are there any anymore?
I think a guy like Dante Fox probably,
Oh yeah, well they're gonna renegotiate with Vinny, pay him $15 instead of $20. Like they're not.
He gets
like Vinny's the reason. Yeah, like Vinny's
pizza.
The guy you give a bigger storyline because he'll probably do it for what he's already been doing it for. He'll do it for free food in a hotel room. Come on. I mean, look, Vinny gets paid and deserves to get paid because Vinny bumps hard, but at the same time, like. Yeah, I'm racking my brain. Like, I don't know what you do to clear some room under the cap. If you were going to get rid of 3 guys, maybe that's the question for the next episode. If you had to get rid of 3 guys at Lucha Underground, who would they be?
I've got 5 in my head right now.
Oh Jesus! I don't mean based on your like or dislike of their storylines. I mean based on their integral nature of the business and what would do the best for business.
Yeah, well, no,
got mad.
And you can't say Sexy Star because I think everyone across the board would agree.
He wants to fire Sexy Star 5 times.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're actually going to do any kind of angle with Sexy Star. Like,
she get bitten by a spider and dies.
They're going to do the spider thing. Like this whole thing that happened at Triple Mania is going to be, and no one's going to remember it by the time it airs.
Maybe like she's gonna get caught in a spider web and get eaten by a giant spider that lives in the basement of Lucha Underground.
I'll tell you what I honestly would love for them to do. I'd love for them to tell her, for Dorian to tell her that she has to come back to Lucha Underground to get killed off. That is the punishment.
She gets shot by a crazy fan. The little girl who brought her.
I was a very sane fan.
I was gonna say, like, this is
a very British fan.
If you want to have like someone kill her off in a backstage vignette, Casey will do it for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that'll turn into a shoot, and then they'll actually have to physically remove him.
Well, he might actually pay for the privilege. Fuck doing it for free. He'll pay for the privilege to do it, I think.
How did we finance season 4? Well, Casey paid a lot of money.
And thus began Casey's Hitman character.
Yeah. He can be dressed like Loki.
All right, so if Dario doesn't come back, do we quit this show forever?
I can't remember if I mentioned it last time, and I forgot to mention to EV Dub, but when that happened at the 4D screening, everyone lost their shit. Like I could hear Mallory up in the back just yelling like, "What?" Like we were all just shocked.
Yeah. I was not expecting it. I just, of all the things, EV Dub and a paddy wagon maybe, but that was like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll take it if Vinny starts running the temple.
I got nothing left. This is all I got for now. Because I could keep going forever and ever. I'm going to just have more and more questions, but that's what more episodes are for. We've got plenty of time to discuss these things. Thank you, gentlemen, all for coming out and hanging.
Thank you for having me.
Anybody got anything they want to plug or throw in there?
No, I got to work in the morning.
Oh yeah, me too. I got like a 4 a.m. call time tomorrow, and I'm at 11 Central Time right now. I'm in Austin, the home of Rey Network, who I can now proudly support again. Glad to wear my Rey colors. Glad to wear my Lucha Underground colors. I have nothing to plug except go back and watch Gear Dogs on Discovery Go app. I'm working on another show. I'll tell you when my episodes start airing. What do you got, Byron?
Vanilla Ice Project Season 8 is beginning to film now, and watch for new episodes, I would say, in the future.
Jim?
Gonna plug a great little short film. Casey would love it. A little bit of horror, a little bit of fight scene. You can check it out at No Touching Film, starring some great stunt people, and you can just hit me up at the Jimmy V on Twitter.
And Meatloaf, are you really going to come? Are you going to get over here? Are you going to get over your fear?
Well, the only thing I've got is basically it's scheduling with work, because like the way the holidays work, my holiday, I've spent it all, and it like renews in March. But
might still be a couple tapings going.
Well, the thing is, I can actually take some time off. I can basically buy out my time. I can pay them to not pay me.
Look, EV Dub said that you had a standing invitation, so I would suggest you use it for Ultima Lucha 4 and that you use me as your +1. All right. So until next time, stay calm and stay in the mix.